Hello, everyone. My name is Marie Graham, as Gianna said, Giovanna rather, I'm sorry. Thank you all for being here tonight, and thank you again for this opportunity. I have done these a number of times, and I'm always thrilled to be a part of this library. Giovanna is the head of programming here and at the library, and she does an amazing job. I could literally live in this library with all the cool things that they have going on. So I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be here tonight. So what we're going to do is this. We've got a large group tonight, and for me to see my screen, I can't see everybody's faces. So Giovanna and I are going to sort of work back and forth. As we get started, I'm going to ask everyone to think of something that they would like to leave here knowing tonight. I think I have probably, over the years, I've heard a lot of things, but I always like to ask. And I'd also like us to start thinking about what is staging? I can't see any hands, so if someone has a thought of what they'd like to share, what is staging? You've heard of it. What do you think about it?
You can also unmute or type in the chat if you'd like.
Are you going to give me something else to look at?
Nobody.
Yeah, no, okay. All right, well, that's fine. It is, staging is one of those things that people know the word of, but we've all heard it. We kind of know what it means, but not like 100%. And it's really easy to look across the way and say, oh, gee, what is it? It's fine for them, but not for me. So we're gonna do a bunch of different things tonight. I've got a lot of words in me, and I can talk pretty fast. If you have a question, we can't see you unless you're unless your camera is on. But if you have a question, you could either raise your hand in the chat box or, put your camera back on and ask a question. And Giovanna is going to keep an eye on that for us as well.
There is a comment in the chat, Marie. Did you see it?
No, I did not.
In the chat. Meg said she wants to be setting up your home so it looks the most desirable.
Okay. Well, you're in the right place, Meg. Anybody else?
Somebody else. Clearing out the extraneous stuff. Staging always seems to be for larger homes. Large homes, what about the small apartments?
I love small apartments. I love doing them. That's a really good point. But no, we're gonna talk about that as well. The smaller the space, it actually takes less to make a big difference, and they're very rewarding projects. So, so I'm just going to finish Giovanna's introduction of me. Yes, again, my name is Marie Graham. I'm the owner of The Refreshed Home, and as of about 18 months ago, another company I created called Orange Boom. I discuss design and listing prep as a consultant, which is kind of the same thing as staging, but it's like how I like to describe what staging is because it sounds much more friendly. I try to change people's opinions, and I'm going to about what they think it is, because hopefully you're going to take away some of these things tonight, that it is not what you see on HGTV. It is not about bringing in white furniture and fake animal rugs and painting everything white. It's really not. Maybe some houses, but so I've last year, I crossed over $700 million worth of property that I helped stage, get ready, and sold in Westchester County since 2008. And I also have, at counting, 2 Best of Westchester awards. I'm hoping for a third. They haven't announced it yet, but we'll see. So what I do, though, is I help people make sense of their space and their stuff. And tonight, I'm going to help you make sense of what staging is. Bear with me. Okay, all right. So I'm not an agent, just to kind of do a little bit of housekeeping. I'm not an agent, not that that's a bad thing. I'm not a photographer. I don't sell anything, and I don't represent any other kind of entity. I'm totally an independent person. My first career was, the first 30 years or so was in design and store management for both Ethan Allen and Stickley. I left it because the world didn't need more people to sell things. The world needed, you were 2 clicks away with this wonderful internet. You're 2 clicks away from all the ideas and product you could imagine. What the world was missing, and I say this humbly, but the world was missing people who could evaluate, assess, and help untangle the thought process. So that's what I do. And I help people make their own best choices. I fell into staging almost immediately because in 2007, when I started the Refresh Home, it happened to be a very good business model because the real estate market was not good at all. And, people had lots and lots of stuff, and they just wanted to, have really good listing photos. And I could do that. And so I did. And again, that was many years and many properties ago. And what I do is I help people who, I'm an independent who just helps them with a thoughtful, practiced eye to help them make very good decisions. E-consults are something that I've always done over the years. And I started Orange Boom about 18 months ago. Not that that was any great crystal ball that we were all going to be home and be in front of our computers, but there's some people that don't need a lot of help, but they want to do everything on their phone or their tablet. They want to be on their sofa, and that's a very comfortable way of doing things. So it's not a new service. It's just a platform for people who can find me a little bit easier. Okay, so there we go. All right, first thing I want to talk about in terms of when you look at design and all sorts of things, the process is very simple. It should be intuitive. You should not have to work hard at it. It should make sense, and good design really serves the people who use it. And when I say design, I don't necessarily mean decorating, because there's design in pretty much everything we do. But for tonight's purposes, there is design that goes into things, but it has to make sense. And that's the purpose of what we're going to talk about tonight, about being more than just big and showy. It's got to work. And one of my favorite quotes from Steve Jobs is that it's not just what it looks or feels like, it's how it works. So I'll let you in on a little secret. Come a little closer, a little closer. I've been doing this a long time, and I have found that I've tended to channel Glenda the Good Witch. You will choose well when you're pointed in the right direction. You absolutely have it in you. Most people don't think they do. HGTV doesn't want you to think you have it in you, but you do. You absolutely have the ability to make good choice. The idea is you just have to get, untangle, clear things out, clear the brain. It's a little like clearing out closets, clear the brain, and just sort of understand some principles. It's not all about aesthetics. It is, but there's more behind that. So today's workshop is going to be, I'm sort of the teach a man to fish type of thing. Rather than deal with just color of the year and the hot trends and this and that. Some of what we're going to talk about, there's going to be math, there's going to be science, economics, and human nature. We're going to talk about that because this is how you shape good designs and good choices in person, and that will resonate in your listing photos. We're going to cover what buyers want, how they make decisions, how you as a seller can prioritize, where to get started and where to put your time, energy, and so on. And even in this market, which it's Westchester, it's been a good market, even in a very hot market, why all of this matters. And hopefully by the end of tonight, in addition to how to set a desirable home, how to clear out, and how to stage a smaller space, organically, you're going to leave here in an hour and 20 minutes feeling empowered. You're going to have more confidence to make your own decisions. You'll have a finer eye. maybe if there are any agents in the group, one of the things that's very hard for agents to do is to say difficult things that need to be said. Nobody wants to be abrasive, but sometimes there's things that have to be said, and sometimes it's just a matter of finding the right words to it. It could be your significant other, it could be your kids, you know, whatever, but you'll find better ways to say things because it will be based on logic, not necessarily emotion. You will learn to see how buyers see things, and you'll really understand how to make your own best decisions. All right. We're doing good so far? All right. So what is staging? I was horrified when my first design client called me in 2008 and wanted me to stage her house. And all I knew was what I saw on TV. And she was like, no, no, no. My house is full of stuff. You sold it to me. I'm not bringing in stuff. I'm not buying stuff. I need you to make it look as good as possible. And I said, okay. And I did that house and I did a few other houses. They sold, and it kind of kept going. I was absolutely horrified that the industry didn't have any good answers for what staging was. They just, they had lots of reasons why you should do it, which is, sort of arbitrary for a logical person. It kind of grated against me. So it took me a little time, and I came up with my own definition. And definitions are tricky because you want them to be, universal, but you also want them to be open-ended, so they're going to work for the most people. So this is what I call staging. Staging is whatever you can do to improve the market position of a property and ease your mind. Those are two very important components, and if you miss one, it's not going to work. You need the best houses, the houses that sold quickly and well and people can sleep at night, is when you improve the market position to whatever's doable for you, but it also is in a way that works for you. Sometimes it's, we're threading the needle there, but it's simply the process of determining what is needed, what is doable, and setting a plan to get it done. There's no mention of budget. There's no mention of white sofas or fake animal throws or anything like that. It's not any one particular thing. Every house is a little different. Every set of circumstances is a little different. If you're going to think about getting your house ready, think of it that you're starting, if you speak to a professional stager, it's an invitation to start a conversation about what you can do. That sounds doable. Yes? Does that work? All right. So styling, that's a very exclusive sounding word. I call myself a stylist. I don't feel like I match the word, but it is what I do. Style is to arrange things in a particular way, in a form, for a reason. You want to combine complementary elements, and virtually everything in our life is styled in some way, shape, or form. It could be clothes, it could be food, it could be the house, it could be our hair. You want to create a certain feeling. You have a purpose, and you use things to get you to that purpose. And that's what I do. I use things people have. Sometimes I do bring things in. I have a small warehouse of props. That's another story. But you look at things, what it is? It's like the version of Chopped, the home version. If you've ever watched the TV show Chopped, where everyone has a basket and they open it at the same time and they're like, oh my goodness, what's in these? And you have all these disparate elements, and you have to have someone who, these chefs, these people, they understand the nature of the ingredients. They know how to work with the ingredients. They know how to interplay them, get a little bit of creative. They're think fast on their feet. And that's really what a lot of staging is. When you're there at the front door, you ring the bell, tighten the mask, you're waiting for the door to open. It's like opening that basket. You don't know, but you're going to do something that's great, and you're going to make people happy. So what have you heard about today's market? Not today, but in general. most of the media, it's a hot market, it's a seller's market, and things are flying off the shelf. People are insane. There's lines at open houses and, you know, all that sort of stuff. And it's true. It is true. And it's true for many reasons. It's not always the best market when it's such an overheated market. If you've ever bid in an auction or know someone who's bid in an auction and got a little carried away in the heat of the moment, and maybe they've had a little remorse, that has been happening in a number of deals, where they just don't go through. People kind of lose interest, they change their mind, what have you. The idea of what we want to talk about tonight, of how to style the listing photos, it's almost impossible to overestimate how important listing photos are. And this was even before COVID. So you've got to have great looking photos. And that's the quality, which is the agent, and the composition, which is what I do. And it goes to some very logical reasons. So we want to talk about that. The belief is that the best looking properties attract the most serious and best qualified buyers. I believe that. Some people are a little cynical, and they're thinking, oh, it doesn't matter. People can't wait to spend money. I don't know. You want the best buyers, and you want the best qualified buyers. You want the most serious buyers. So I've got a couple of reasons here to go over that. When we talk about a best qualified buyer, that means they can put down a substantial deposit, and they can also cover it if there's any appraisal gap. I can't see faces, so I'm not sure who's on board or where any of you are with this. But if you're a seller, you just don't want a good number. You want a good number, but you want the quality of the offer, and that includes things like the percentage of deposit that someone's ready to put down. And as again, if they can cover, if the house, you could get a great number for your house, but if they only put 5% down and the house doesn't appraise anywhere near what it was, sold for, or, then who's going to make up that money? So you definitely want a quality buyer. And they are out there. They're out there 24/7. When you take the time to prepare a property, make it look its best in person and in photos, the buyers will bond with the property. And that may be like, oh, isn't that nice? But if you don't believe the warm and fuzzy stuff, here's the thing. Let's say you need some contingencies. You need to put off a moving date. You need, I don't know, if there's delays that are unforeseen that you can't help, like the co-op board that has to approve someone, or there's a tank that has to come out of the ground or something like that. If there's anything that is going to slow the process down, you want someone who's absolutely bonded with the property. And good photos will do that. When people walk into a home and they feel that someone took the time, they made it interesting, it's fun, and it's more than just big, because big is like, big, that's meaningful. Things also change. Interest rates could go up. A year and a half ago, who knew what was going to happen this past year? Things can change on a dime. And you just want, again, you want someone who is solid and, just going to move forward no matter what. And even if you're preparing the house for maybe the fall market or beyond, things will still change. Good times, there's a saying, bad times don't last, but good times don't always last either. So you always want to be prepared, and you always want to present the best possible product, which is your house, that you can. And if interest rates go up, which I can't imagine that they're not going to at some point, what that means is buyers can afford less house, and you want them bonded to that house. Here's a big one. There is absolutely no shame or regret if you take the time in the beginning to figure out what is the best you can do, and then do it. You will sleep well at night. There's no regret in that. That's what getting it sold quickly and well is. You do the best you can, you price it accordingly, and that's what happens. And then the other thing is that details matter. And there's so much that you can do. And I'm going to show you a bunch of photos tonight that you'll see. There's so much that you can do that doesn't cost a lot. The problem that that I come up against an awful lot is people who think they know what staging is. They're nervous about it. It's intimidating. It sounds expensive. These are all, they're valid, but they don't have a conversation. They just make assumptions. And one of those assumptions is that it's the 1.0, the 40-year-old version of, what staging is when you bring furniture into an empty trophy house and make it look pretty. I can't do that. I won't do that. I can't afford that, whatever. So I guess I can't do anything. And nothing could be further from the truth. You can do so much, and it is so easy. So, well, it's not that easy, but it's easy when you know how, but you're going to see as we go through. So, whoops, sorry. There we go. All right. So best looking is subjective. It changes. It changes with everything. Cars, the original cell phone, the Maxwell Smart version, many, many yards of draperies, the hair. We all, well, again, I can't see faces, but most of us remember at least some of these things. So big was best looking at one time. Thing is, people just don't want to pay for big. They want more from their property, and they want more for their money than big. I hope some of you are smiling. I like goofy pictures and my PowerPoints. So again, be more than just visual. That's what we're going to do tonight. Go beyond visual. Touch people's hearts. That is what is going to, that is what this is about. So function in the eye of today's buyer is value. That is value for them. You connect the dots from one to the other. You demonstrate value by showing function. However, it's important to note that value is always in the eye of the beholder. Now, I'd like to see either a comment or hands or something. Giovanna, what are some of the things that people think differently about this year? Any thoughts on that? And there's a lot.
You can also type in the chat if you prefer, because I think most people have their cameras off.
Okay. I can't pull up the camera without totally screwing up the slides.
I'm happy to read out whatever people wish to type in.
Okay. Do you see anything?
Yes, people want more space for office or extended family to be with them.
Right, okay.
Outdoor space is key.
Okay. Anything else?
That's it so far.
Okay. All right. So you want to think about what is behind. Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry. Functional.
Functional. Okay. Yeah. Oh, I think I've seen that before. Function. Okay. All right. It's important, especially if you've lived in your house for a long time, you're used to thinking, your metrics. What is functional? What is beautiful? What is valuable, and so on and so forth. The key is value is always in the eye of the beholder. And I want to share with you, there's an auction site. I go to an online auction site. Again, in my business, I have a small prop rental, Props to Go. And, if you're staging a, 1928 Tudor or a 1950s contemporary, you can't just look like you knocked over a Home Goods. You have to have a range of things. So in my warehouse, I curate the cool and the basic. And so I go to, this online site is one of my sources. And this came up, this was just this past week. All right. A monumental vintage oak cabinet. Now, after I left Stickley, I for about a year, I worked at a store up in northern Westchester. Some of you may know it's called Country Willow. And the owner specialized in making these big honking monster cabinets. The biggest one of all that he ever made was called the Roy, named after him. It probably was about 14 feet wide, about 10 feet tall. It was killer. This was 2005, something like that. Anyway, this was on the online auction. One person, one bid, $1. Now, something like this would have cost thousands. All right. Same auction, a box of plastic flamingos, $46, and 14 bids on that. I almost bid on it, actually. Thought it was fun, but I passed. All right, same auction, $94, 35 bids for 4 vintage mixing bowls. And this is all this past week. This is a place in Armonk, I think it was. Actually, this one was in Bedford. So here's my question, and this goes to the things that people want, the more space, the office, the outside space, the function. What are they really buying? What are your sellers really buying besides square footage, number of bedrooms, acreage? That's what you want your listing photos to read. Here, instead of buying just wood, plastic, and glass, you know, the flamingos, you're buying fun. The glass, you're buying, making cookies, you know, Toll House cookies with Nana. You know, you're buying nostalgia. You're buying a piece of your past. So these are the things that you want to think about when you look at these rooms in your home and the things that they can do for you. One of the things that has not changed that I can discern in any, you know, literally in the time that I've been doing this, is how buyers decide. Now, if any of you are sellers, you may be also looking online to buy, or you may be checking out the competition. Here's when your listing goes live. First of all, you want to understand that buyers are scared to death. The best sellers remember that buyers are always scared. They're scared they're going to miss the right house, they're going to choose the wrong house, or they're going to overpay. So in their phone, they have all these home finder apps that they program in and, you know, gather information. I'm not saying they know what to do with it. I'm not saying that they're good analysis, but it's like they're whoopee. So everything is on people's phones. So this is what guides me when I speak to people about getting their properties ready for sale. 5 seconds is the first number you need to consider. And the reason for that is that when your listing goes live, even if it's been on the internet 5 years ago, but maybe it has never been, if you've lived in your house for 20, 25 years, it's never been on the internet, people's phones will ping. They will pick it up and they will do this. They will go 1, 2, 3, 4, and maybe 5. And if any of you are in the process of buying, you know that you're going, yes, I know that, because you get good. You look fast to see if it's going to get your attention. You will never have that 5 seconds back again. So again, your pictures have to be crisp, they have to be clear, they have to be engaging, because that is what gets people to put your property on the top of the list. If that did the trick, if those pictures did the trick and people go through the whole signing of the waivers for COVID and the proof of funds and scheduling and all that sort of stuff, if they go through that, it's what they see that first minute. It is when you have a larger house, to the person, I'm sorry, I don't know if it was Meg, to the person who mentioned staging only seems that it's for a big house. It's not. But the key is when you have a bigger house, you have to make the expected rooms show as expected. And then you need to show the other rooms with very specific functions. No one is going to want to buy a house that has like 5 dens, right? It doesn't work that way, or they're not going to want to pay you what it's worth. So you need to show specific functions. But it's that first minute, it's very crucial. If you have a smaller space, maybe you have children and you have no need for a formal dining room, and it has become a playroom, and there's nothing wrong with that, because when you're living in your house, if it serves you, that's absolutely fine. But for you to get the most money and to have the best connection with buyers, they're going to want to see a formal dining room if you have that. And if it's just part of one big room, then you set it up as such. There's ways that you can designate it within one set of four walls. We'll talk about that. But it's that first minute of what they see. And if you actually, one of the challenges, if you have a smaller space, is to give people enough things to look at so that they'll be there for a minute. Because if you've got a 1 or 2 bedroom co-op, in most cases, you stand in one place and you can kind of get the whole gist of things. You want to create things that will draw people through. And then the last number to consider is 30 days. And there's an asterisk there for a reason. I've always said 30 days. I stick with 30 days. In this market, it's really not 30 days. 30 days is an outlier. That is your present. You're still new and shiny, and everybody will want to see you there first. After 30 days, they're 2 clicks away from finding out how many other people looked at your house online and what the selling history was and so on and so forth. And after 30 days, really even 14 days in this market, the only way to stay relevant is through a price change. And you just don't want to do that. You want to, again, I'm not an agent. I never discuss numbers per se with clients of, in terms of price, but as a theory, as it doesn't matter if it's a $4 million house on the water in Rye, or if it's a $200,000 condo in White Plains, it doesn't matter. It's, people will make up decisions quickly. And after a set period of time, it's like, maybe something's wrong with it. Maybe it's overpriced, whatever. So if you're going through the process, if you're starting now, or maybe you're revisiting a listing, keep these numbers in mind. Let them guide you with every decision that you make. How much time you spend thinking of things, how much money you put into doing things, that sort of thing. So 5 seconds, 1 minute, 30 days. I've yet to see that change. Okay, I was hoping to be interactive here and explain, or have you guys explain decluttering and depersonalizing it, because that's what most people typically know with staging. Giovanna, does anybody have any comments about that? Whoops, there we go.
Well, there's a question in the chat. What about open houses? Do you recommend them?
I'm for anything that creates visibility. People need to be able to see a house, and sometimes individual scheduling doesn't work for their sense of things. But generally speaking, I mean, there's pluses and minuses for both. It's usually the preference of the seller, what they want to do. But the more accessible you can make a house, the better. And I'll tell you, I had a house that went on the market not too long ago that I had done a drive-by. It was on a Saturday. It was a really nice house. We did some nice updates in there. And there was like 6 people online waiting to get in the house. I was like, hey! Here's the thing is that, and this getting back to the auction thing and these bowls and all that other stuff, is that I may want that house, but you know what? If there's 5 other people in front of me and I'm hearing them talk, maybe I want it just a little bit more because they're going to want it too. That's what happens in the frenzy of auctions. So there are pluses and minuses to open houses. If you had a specific concern, I'd talk to your agent about it and see what that might be. But I think anything that you can do, an open house, being very accessible for showings. I have a lot of clients who actually go out of town that first weekend. They'll go, or maybe not even go out of town, they'll just stay at a hotel or the kid's house or something like that, just so that they're not in the, the back and forth, because houses in the, I'd say, luxury in some markets is considered 1.5 million and up. I would say, even if a house is 1.5, you're still going to have a good sized buyer pool who want to see that house. And you're going to have tightly scheduled appointments. So I'm sorry, I'm going off on a tangent here. I hope I answered that question. I would go for the open house. You know, it's very hard not seeing faces to react to. I'm so sorry about this. All right, did anybody have any thoughts on what decluttering and depersonalizing is?
You can also unmute if you prefer to unmute and say what you think or type in the chat. No family photos from Meg.
Okay. Anybody else?
No knickknacks, also from
Okay.
Meg.
Okay. Meg, you're a little bit of an HGTV junkie, aren't you? That's all right. Well, see.
Love it.
Oh, I'm
That's
sorry.
what she wrote. She wrote "love it" in all caps.
Well, here's the thing. The industry, as I mentioned before, the industry is not big about explaining things. It's a lot of it is just parrot, 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 parrot. And, usually when I do these workshops in person, it's one of the things I ask people, what do you think about it? And they'll say it's taking this out, it's doing that. And why? Because it's, so people can see themselves, blah, 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 It's hard to do without hurting anybody's feelings. But it's been my experience that when you say these words, really what people hear for the most part is you think my kids are ugly, my dog is fat, and I've got bad taste. And that's not it. People get distracted. And I want to talk a little bit about that. I want to depersonalize the depersonalizing thing. I don't like the word clutter. I think if someone called things that I had clutter, I'd be a little annoyed. I'd be a little defensive. Maybe clutter, but but I'm not selling. So anyway, all right. Here's the science. We're getting into science and math here. Most listing photos, as we spoke of, are seen on 3-inch phone screens. Probably a survival skill from when the prehistoric man was out there. We cannot not see color and light. We just can't not see it. It's just, and that just means stuff. We can't not see it. When you're looking on a 3-inch phone screen, when you have a lot of little things, what happens is it just becomes very muddy. It doesn't read as crisp and clear. It reads as fussy, it reads as busy. Now that doesn't mean that everything should be all white and what have you. The photo that you see on the left, this is one of my favorite all-time photos. And I didn't really do that much. I mean, this was a house actually in White Plains, an older Tudor kind of house. She was crazy wild with the Fiesta ware. And she had like in all the cabinets and the stuff, and then that little bar to the far left, she had like lots of stuff, salt and pepper things and whatever. And I said, no, you got to clear that off. But that's really pretty much it, neaten up what's behind the cupboards. Now, color, because we love color. We love color. Is there anybody here, by the way, who has not sat in a traffic jam on the 4th of July weekend for a 20-minute fireworks display? Is there anybody that doesn't have 10 pictures of sunsets on their phones? Right. We love color. So color and simple contrast carry the eye around the photo. It makes it see the whole photo. Visual texture engages the eyeballs. Now, RMLS allows 36 slots. There's 36 spaces for photos, maps, floor plans, pictures of the house, pictures of the town, whatever the case is. 36 is the number. And if people are flipping through and they're looking at half a second per picture, maybe less because there's really nothing to engage them, they could get to that end of those pictures fairly soon. And again, we're looking at this under the electron microscope. But when you look at a picture like this, and that's, I want you to do this with me. When you look at a picture like this, it's clear that the big surfaces, it's easy on the eye, but you're looking in the cabinets and then you're saying, oh, there's context, there's a room beyond that. And you're seeing the light and you're seeing a plant in front of the window. And then you've got the order of the 6 plates on the wall. And then your eye comes sort of full circle back and you're looking at, an orange bowl with green apples in it. Instead of like a quarter of a second or a half of a second, your eye may stay on that picture for maybe a full second, maybe more. By the time you get to the end of those photos, if they're interesting as well as of a good quality, you have eyeballs on your photos. It could cumulatively add up and be quite substantial. And what happens is people bond with that. They want to come and they want to see what kind of plant that is in the window, or how much fiesta ware she actually has, or what have you. But this is an engaging picture for me. It was crisp, it was clean, it was bright. One of my favorites of all time. I'm going to send this. This is we talk about, somebody had asked about how to clear out, how to make your home desirable. Meg, I think that was you. This is an infographic I created a couple years ago. Don't try to read it now. I'm going to send it to Giovanna as a PDF, and she will send it to you all. I don't know who you are. I don't know if I have any way of reaching out to you, which is fine. That's how it works when you do library presentations. But I'm going to send it to her. I'm also going to send you a list of sources, people that I've used in the Westchester area who are good at what they do. They're nice, they're smart, they're fair. So I'm going to send both of those to her and ask her to send them to you. But I created this a few years ago because everybody thought that staging was starting with bringing stuff in, and nothing could be further from the truth. Oh, I see a thumbs up. Joanne, thank you. Your box is like right on the side of my screen there. So this is really the process you want to go. And if there's anybody out there who's taken any psychology or education classes, you'll recognize this. I'm channeling Abraham Maslow. He developed a proposal. I think that you'd call it a proposal. He called it the hierarchy of needs. And in it, he said, each of us has our own innate high point. And the way that we become that, the way that we reach that high point of whatever we're meant to be, whatever we could be, is when we start at the bottom and work on the basics, and we organically, naturally ascend up. And 40 years, I took one class and I remembered that, and I did this. I have a great graphics guy, and he put this together for me a number of years ago. So you'll see this. You'll get to read all the type and so on. But this is how, as a seller, you want to prioritize your time, your energy, your angst, your money, all that sort of stuff. You start with the basics. You do what you can, and then wherever you are in the pyramid, and clean, pristine, and move-in ready is quite excellent these days. Just price it accordingly, and you're going to do really well. Okay, so I want to talk about white walls. Does anybody get the humor? You know, a little kiss of death there. Okay, white walls. White walls of themselves are not the most terrific thing to read in a photo. Color on the wall is usually my favorite because it makes you see the space. But the way to get around that, ooh, that's nasty, isn't it? Ooh, I forgot about that slide. It's the same picture, no color on the left. It's just grayscale. Okay, it's worse in rooms. If you have white walls, if you have everything white and neutral, and you have anything, furniture for the most part, because of gravity, it's on the floor. They look like boxes growing out of the wall. That's all. It's very sterile. It's very, even though there's art on the wall, it's a lot of hard angles. And there's really not that much to see, but it's sort of counterintuitive. Actually, if you have a smaller room and you put a color on the wall, it actually can absorb big furniture. It makes the furniture recede because visually, this is the science again, you've got a wall, a white wall, and you've got a block of dark furniture. If you've got color on the wall and that color is closer to the color of the sofa, it recedes a bit. It's not as disruptive, and the room looks better. So yeah, I'm not a fan of white walls. If you can, color is good. Although some pictures I'm going to show you will be white walls. But one of the things, especially if you've got an older home, if you've got off-white walls, off-white ceiling, off-white trim, you don't see a lot of the detail. And the older homes are the ones that have the cove molding, that have maybe the paneled doors. It just is one big mosh. And you don't really, the space itself, the amount of the space doesn't really resonate. The eye stops at color. So like if I close my eyes and open them, I would stop for at least for a moment at this wall unit. But there's got to be a good 15, 18 feet of room beyond that. You just can't see that. So color on the walls are generally a good thing to do. When you're styling a photo, you want to draw, get it? Draw the eye. You want to draw the eye into the room and around the room. You want to create a sense of depth. This was a picture that most of you saw on the announcement. This was a condo in Briarcliff and I will tell you, I did not vote for white walls. The agent chose them. It actually came out good, but it came out good because the space was hugely expansive. You've got light. Do you see in the back off of the deck? Those are actually yellow chairs I told her to buy at auction. So she's got the yellow chairs in the deck for punctuation. Please, let's not say pop of color anymore. Can we have an amen? No more pops of color. Punctuation. So you've got the yellow there, which catches the eye. You've got the plant in the background. You're showing context of the office beyond that, but you're tying together. You've got the red chair, you've got the red pillows, you've got the big piece of art. It brings the eye around. And that's what makes the amount of space resonate, which the amount of space means the value of the space. It all happens in the flash of an eye. This is another house that I love doing. This was in it was a Chappaqua house, and I did not do the turquoise fireplace. I cannot claim credit for that. Several people thought it should be painted. I said, no, absolutely. This was when you walk in the house, this was kind of a center hall colonial setup. So when you walk in the house and you make a hard right, this is what you see. And then the room beyond that is the family room. And you can see from the turquoise, you have the pillow on the sofa, the artwork over the sofa, the fireplace. Then all of a sudden, see that in the next room? You got, turquoise, teal on the furniture, the back of the piece. So the eye is bringing around, you're bringing the eye into it and engaging it. And that's what you want. That's what you want, a picture with dimension, not just someone with a big wide angle lens standing in the corner. This is actually, I've already told you about the other two. All right, this is a co-op. This is a $170,000 co-op in Bronxville. And what I love about this picture is the context. It's a garden apartment. This is a second story. This is what you see when you come up the stairs. And what we did, there's no furniture, well, short of the table that you see there. What we did is we emptied the space. Everything was painted. We ripped up the carpet. And again, it's all in a heartbeat, but I've got the theme of red with the plant there. I've got the tiny bit of red peeking out in the corner. And if I showed you the reverse of that, you'd see that there were red canisters and red coffee cups with a black and white coffee maker. So it's just something to keep the eye moving. But if you can illustrate the different planes, you bring people into the pictures. And again, the more time they spend in the pictures, the better. Someone said capitalize on outdoor space. Absolutely. Outdoor space does not count as usable square footage. I mean, it's not in the listing, it gives you acreage, but it's not something. So the more ways that you can show purpose of space, the more function, the better. And that really drills down to knowing who your buyer is. And please don't say, oh, it's a family with kids or a downsizer. Dig deeper. You gotta dig deeper. You really want to touch people's hearts with this. And it doesn't have to be fancy. A number of years ago, in my business, usually July is very quiet, July and August. And it was very hot. It was one of those oppressive weeks. So I'm inside and I'm just looking at listings, and they were in the higher end listings. Like at the time, I'd say probably $2 to $3 million, something like that. Here's the thing, no matter what your price point is, actually, no matter what your subject matter is, once you see enough of it or taste enough of it, or it doesn't register anymore. You could love brownies. Brownies could be your favorite dessert. After 3 bites, you can't taste it anymore because it's just so much. You may have all sorts of things. You may have shoes, a lot of shoes, but after a while they all start looking the same. Same thing with houses. So that's why we want to, again, engage people. So I'm looking at the story behind this picture with the dog and the ball. I'm looking at these high-end houses, and they all had the grand entries, the double door, the stairways that run around. They had the patio outside, the pool, the whole, everything, the marble floors. They all look the same. I mean, they were lovely, but they all look the same. This one listing, the last picture, was very similar to this. And had I been smart, I would have saved it. I don't know whose it was. Someone had gotten into the pool and took a picture like this with a dog swimming to them with a ball in its mouth. And that told me, if I had been a buyer, that would have been the first house I wanted to see. That told me everything I wanted to be about that house. In my mind, that house was different because it was fun. That was the cool house. So it doesn't have to be fancy, but you want to put a part of yourself. It's like when you have a party and you take the time to do things, people appreciate that. So I'm going to do a quick counterclockwise of some things that we did. Starting in the lower left, this was a weird old house in the Austin and Croton area, called Crotonville. That is the Hudson River beyond those reeds. And I took the binoculars, put them on the railing. That was it. Wasn't that a great idea? He had the binoculars in there. I just take them, put them there. You're laying out an idea. If the district has, every district has sports programs. Let's say I'm married to a man who's from Yorktown, and Yorktown thinks they invented lacrosse. So every house I do in Yorktown, actually in Northern Westchester, a lot of communities, I try to incorporate something with lacrosse. This particular house, we put a goal in the backyard. Now, the listing went on the market, and I think this one was October, November. There really wasn't much else to look at, but having something in the yard, it gave people a sense of scale, but it also said, yeah, my kid's going to do that. My kid's going to be the lacrosse star. The picture above that is a small house. It was in North Salem, around a lake, or South Salem, one of the Salems, but it was around a lake. It was a whole lifestyle, boating and bicycle paths and all that sort of stuff. And it was a small house. It was a very modest house, an older home. And we needed to show that a car fit in the garage. But the problem was there was no room because of the bikes. So what did we do? We took the bikes that he owned, we put them outside to speak to the lifestyle. We also put, they didn't bloom 100%, but you can see the yellow mums on either side because the yellow is defining the space. It's making you focus in on that particular shot. And that was just, again, it's what he had. The middle picture, the dock, that's a house in T-Town. It was a picture taken a few years ago on April Fool's Day. The day of the photos, it snowed like crazy. And I was like, dying 1,000 deaths. I had nothing to do with this picture. I give all the credit to the photographer. By the time he was taking most of the pictures, the snow had stopped and it was starting to melt. And if you look really carefully at the dock, and this is the genius of, this is why you hire an agent who hires a good professional photographer. The genius of this picture is he just saw it. If you look at the snow, there's no footprints. He didn't set anything up. And the psychology is, this is going on the market in early April. We are so tired of winter. We are so ready for spring. So you got melting snow, an Adirondack chair on a deck, looking out on a lake. I love that picture. Fire pits, you can't do better than a fire pit in the backyard. You put it on a far corner, not just to keep it away from the house and have it safe, but you put it in the far corner. It makes people see how big the yard is. You get a couple of Adirondack chairs, throw blankets, bright pillows, that type of thing. Call it a day. If you really want to go all out, you get a box of graham crackers and marshmallows, some Hershey bars. I've done it. It works. It touches people's heart. It makes them want to be. The people who bought those vintage Pyrex bowls will probably like the house with s'mores on them. Upper right, this was a house in Purchase. Man-made, a lot of landscaping, man-made waterfall. Again, I give credit to the photographer. I put those, you can't tell it from this angle, but those are actually two children's size Adirondack chairs. And they were at the top of the hill. And the idea is that when you came out of the back of the house, the photo was in March, when you came out of the back of the house and you looked up, you saw this hill, and then you saw this these pair of bright green chairs. He took it so that you could look out and see the back of the house and all that. And again, I thought that was terrific. And then last down here, this was a house, they had the bench. They had the bench. We bought the pillows for inside of the house. You got a fire pit. Guess what? You have an area. So for those, not just outdoor spaces, but the specialty spaces, the niche spaces. It could be a hobby room. It could be a craft space, a library, a music room, any of those sort of things for the inside. But these are ways to do things for the outside that literally, you know, they don't cost anything. If you remember anything about tonight, please remember, people do not buy a property from here. They don't. They buy from here. When the heart kicks in, the brain will follow. And that's what you want. You want people's hearts to fall into the property. You want to touch their dreams. Here's some, again, very easy ways. A workout space. It could be as simple as a couple of yoga mats and a yoga ball. Not hard to do at all, but just sort of, you know, a tight shot, do a little niche, do the white towels. White towels are one of the least expensive things that you can do because it's a fabulous luxury and it just reads really well. In this past year, we've, you know, some of the things we've become aware of are health, light, family, safety, all of that sort of stuff. And white towels are really, if you think about it, the ultimate luxury. The house, the dream of this person's house, even though she was selling it, she had 4 sons and they all played sports. Any of you who have sons who play sports, even daughters maybe, but I think sons are worse. Their stuff was all over the place. So the dream here was order. The dream was order, that everything was orderly, everything had its place. That's somebody's dream who's, if it's an up move, they're coming from a smaller space, that you want to touch their dreams. Upper left, that's, somebody had, I was touring their house. I think it was in Cold Spring. I was touring their house and we were down in the basement and I saw that they had all these preserves and I went, oh, you have to bring that up because this is part of the deal. And they actually ended up giving me a jar of preserves, tomato sauce. It was really good, but these are things, if you've got anything like that hanging around, homemade wine, preserves, stuff like that, that's huge. A garden, you know, it's somebody's dream. If you know your buyer and chances are they're coming from a place where they didn't have a yard, they're going to want a dog, maybe they want a cat, but they'll probably want a dog. They'll want a garden. That's all wonderful things. To Meg's point, private space, you know, just a place where the kids can crash. If you've got preteen kids, you want them under your roof, but you want to give them stuff to do. So a nice stretch out space that's bright and clean and easy to look at. Sometimes you have baby feet in your future. That's a dream too. You know, you want to make sure that the house can speak to things like that. And, you know, you can do that just by, like if there's a mud room or even a coat rack, you know, just by hanging a little, like a knapsack, something like that. If there's a laundry room, you fold 3 white towels and you put a little pair of baby shoes on them. I had gotten something a couple of years ago. If you've ever been to Home Goods and you've seen those things that look like window frames, but there's nothing in them, it's literally just the wood of little boxes, and they've got like string that you like clip postcards or stuff too. I don't know, I guess it's like a desk accessory. I had asked my neighbor who had a young child at the time, I asked her, I said, Suzanne, do you have any singular socks? And she goes, are you kidding me? So what I did is I have one of those, and I clipped little individual socks and I put it in the laundry room. You know, it's a cool thing. And then down in the lower right, a book area. I'm a very big proponent of books, and that's not just because you're doing this, Giovanna. I use books all the time. A couple books on a night table, a couple books on a coffee table in piles. you know, stay away from the paperbacks. I'd stay away from paperbacks. I'd stay away from anything that's really controversial. Travel books are awesome. Art books are great. Biographies are terrific. You want to create, you want to attract someone who is thoughtful, who is going to spend the time to really think, what does all of this mean? And especially if your buyer is going to be somebody who has children, what does every parent want? But the kids not to be doing this on their phone. So I say, let them dream. So sports equipment, music, if you've got a guitar, put it on a stand. Books are great. A little easel for art, something like that. These are all things that you can do. And if you don't have this stuff, there's so many places that you can get it. Chances are your neighbors have a ton of stuff that you could borrow. Not that you need a ton of stuff, but you want to, you know, go lightly with it. But you have things, and this is what you want to do. This is as you move forward and start to prepare your property for sale. I want you to look at the rooms and think of, dig deeper beyond they want more space. What do they want to do in that space? Do they want to, you know, maybe set up a chessboard, you know, that the kids can have game night. A big kitchen, get a real basil plant, get a real rosemary plant, put that on the windowsill. Fresh fruit, fresh vegetables are always terrific. I like centerpieces that are, again, you go for contrast of color. So a simple bowl, one kind of fruit, that's it. Because if you've got, and this sounds maybe perhaps petty, but if you've got all sorts of kinds of fruit, it's just a sandwich, or rather a snack on the way to happening. But if you have a wood table, you got a white bowl, you got full oranges, it's terrific. Like that one picture I had, it was all green apples. That becomes an architectural statement. And it's just nice to look at that way. So these are things that you can do. And this is true of almost any price point. If you've got one of those white on white kitchens, absolutely throw some color in there with some plants, some punctuation, some fruit, some vegetables. You're not gunking the space up, but you're speaking. When someone buys this magic house, you know, they're going to have the Fritos and Malamars behind the cabinets, just like everybody else. But I use canisters. I use glass canisters with different color beans in them. You know, cookbooks. These are the things that people can do in this magic house that they're going to buy, your magic house. So that's kind of, let me see, I think that might be it. Oh yes, all right. I know I said it before, but if you remember nothing else about tonight, whatever you can do the best you can and do it from day one. All right, you will never regret it, I promise you. There's no standard of what it has to be, but whatever is the best you can do that's all anybody can do, right? And that is it. So I want to thank you all, and I appreciate your all being here. I'm wondering if there's any more questions.
We have some comments. We have Akiko, who's in Japan, who wrote, your presentation was absolutely thought-provoking. All of your pictures were magnificent. I found your remarks very convincing. Thank you very much. Then Linda would like to know approximately what does it cost to stage a 2,300 square foot house?
Okay, well, it depends on what we talk about with staging. You know, I go back to the pyramid. If it's an occupied home, let me answer the question in a different way, because without knowing what you've got and what needs to be brought up, I wouldn't be able to speak of it. I specialize in occupied homes. Really this year I've kind of sworn off the rental furniture. I kind of swore off rental furniture actually 15 years ago when I left retail, but I don't think it's as necessary as it once was. I really truly don't in this market. And I mean, some houses it does. If it's a funky floor plan, if the rooms are too small and people can't visualize things, or they're not sure where the dining room is, you know, what this room is, because sometimes you have older homes, they get added on and so on, and you kind of have to define the spaces. But for the most part, you know, the way that the furniture industry works, the rental industry, is they have a set number of months and they have a set number, a dollar amount per month. And there's an awful lot of overhead. There's delivery, there's pickup, there's sales tax, there's insurance. 10% of the bill is added on every month for insurance. And it's really hard, especially in a market like this, to see the return on it. But I'm sorry, was that Linda who asked the question?
Yes.
Okay, Linda, what I would say to you is you can contact me if you have any questions, or if you want to send me pictures or anything, you can contact me, and I can go into a little bit more detail. I would actually say that to anybody. One of my ways of thanking everybody for showing up here and agreeing to be a ambassador. I want to change the world and I need your help. So I want you to go forth and share the word of what can be done to get a home ready. But as my thank you to all of you, if anybody wants to call me, text me, send me an email, has a specific question, I'm happy to do that. That's an easy thing to do. So please don't be shy. Take me up on it. But the way that I work, which is I think what Linda was asking, working in occupied homes, I figured out I work in a two-step process. Everything starts with a consult, which is basically the only thing that's always the same about consults is they're always different, because everybody's different, excuse me. But it's a evaluation, an assessment, a conversation. It's a back and forth. During consults, we cover not only what could it look like, should it look like, why, but we get into the nuts and bolts of who's going to do what, how much does it cost, how long is it going to take, how is it going to happen. So consults for a 2,500 square foot occupied home usually run about 2 hours or so. And initial consults I bill out at $195 an hour plus tax. So that would be $390 plus tax. And during consults, again, remember, I don't sell anything. So you have access to my brain, my resources. You can ask me anything. And if you only need an hour, that's fine too. If you feel like we're done, that's fine. But that's how I work. That's good for probably about 80% of the clients that I work with. The other 20% are people who are like, okay, I got it. I got a plan. I got a scope of the work, but I can't do the work. I'm busy. I don't like to do this work. I don't live here. Right now I have a project. Woman is working her parents' estate sale. It's a co-op in Hartsdale. She lives in Seattle. She's lived in Seattle 25, 30 years. So I'm doing this from afar from her. I have another house where the owner had been rented for 6 years and we did a lot of updates. She lives in Canada. So obviously this is not for everyone, but the way that I work is everything starts with a relationship. And not meaning that we have to go to Starbucks and have coffee every Saturday and but it means that we agree to work together. We collaborate, we respect each other, we understand each of us brings something to the party. And actually, when you have a relationship, when you start out at that point, if there's any agents among us or anyone who has a significant other or kids, and there's hard things that you have to say, maybe unpleasant things that you have to say, it becomes a lot easier when you start with the acknowledgement that you're on the same page, that it's not an adversarial relationship. You're there to help each other. Because saying hard things doesn't get easier as time goes on. I'm not a big Academy Award watching person, but a couple of years ago, everybody heard the story that Warren Beatty, somehow there was a mix-up and he announced the wrong winner for Best Picture. So the winners of the picture he announced, everyone's on stage going, yeah. And the director of the picture realizes what happened. And he's like, no, I mean, could you imagine there's like millions, if not billions of people watching this live on TV. How many egos are there on that stage? Excuse me. And he has to say, no, there's been a mistake. We're not winning. It's, I don't know, I think it was La La Land. No, they were La La Land. It was something else. I don't remember. But it never gets easier to say hard things. But if you start with a relationship and you demonstrate that you have a common understanding and a common goal, you can say things like that. So I think I answered the question.
You should have been
I
a
hope I
teacher.
did. Anybody else?
You need to write a book.
I just like doing what I'm a dedicated solopreneur. I just like doing what I do, but I find that when people go through this and they get on the other side of it, they're like, who knew? And I'm like, well, now you do. And it's, you know, the industry, the real estate industry, the staging industry, they don't support this kind of approach. And admittedly, it's very hard to do. You can't like really standardize something like that.
Right.
But, you know, I'm just, you know, I just want one house at a time, the world to be bettered, because at the end of the day, here's the thing. If you know you did your best, your house gets sold and quickly and without the angst and whatever, you get to get on with your life. You get peace of mind. And that, if we've learned nothing this past year, getting on with your life, peace of mind is really priceless. And that's what all of this is about. We're being fed big is big, and, you know, not so much anymore. People want more. And if you have the grit to kind of dig in deeper and really kind of understand who your buyer is going to be and what they're like with the plastic, you know, the plastic flamingos and the vintage bowls that were on auction and stuff. What do people really want to get from buying your house? And if you can make that magic happen, you'll do very well.
Great. And Akiko just mentioned that she understands that color combination is the most important thing. And she appreciates your lecture, your wonderful lecture. And a thank you from Michael as well.
Well, thank you for being here. And thank you for, I'm sorry, the woman from Japan, Akiko?
Yes.
Did I say that right? That's a 13-hour time difference. God bless you.
Yes, it is. Yes. It's
Good
amazing.
for you. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate all of you being here, and I really appreciate this opportunity. Giovanna, you run great programs, and thank you for keep asking me to come back. I thank you.